Good evening, I'm Darren Mara. The top stories. Houston horror, millions facing unprecedented flooding. 10 years behind bars, an Indian court jails a self-styled God man for rape. And a father charged with firearms offences after a 3-year-old girl was shot dead. Tropical storm Harvey is set to dump more rain on an already waterlogged Houston, worsening flooding that's left at least 5 people dead. And there's no respite. Tonight, officials say the water levels will peak on either Wednesday or Thursday. Further homes will flood when Army engineers release water contained in 2 nearby reservoirs for safety. Authorities say a massive rescue operation is underway for people trapped, but admit the search will turn to recovery operations later in the week. The National Weather Service calls flooding in the region unprecedented. Emergency management officials expect nearly 500,000 people to seek assistance.
The 4th largest city in the United States brought to its knees by rising water. Houston quickly becoming aware it's likely to feel the worst pain of Hurricane Harvey.
Many times folks wrongly presume the wind event is going to be the most challenging event. I've seen over the course of my career, it was actually the water event.
The scale of the flooding, both in breadth and depth, caught authorities and residents off guard.
The water came up so fast. It was incredible.
The current was, getting hot. We had to bust a window to get out.
This photograph from inside a nursing home capturing the seriousness of the unfolding emergency.
He said the water was rising. That was the last thing I heard. So my thought at that point was they're going to be dead within hours.
Emergency services are scrambling to reach as many people as they can. Thousands have been rescued.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
But thousands more are still waiting.
Every time I dialed 911, it automatically hung up, and I'm sure they were just over inundated or busy.
My biggest concern is still life and safety. We've still got people who are trapped in floodwaters, in homes, and we have to get those people out.
For some, the only way out is to be winched to helicopters hovering above. People urged to get onto their roofs to avoid becoming trapped in attics. More than 250 highways have been closed across Texas and 3,000 reserve troops called in to help. Authorities are warning of tornadoes as well as what could become historic rainfall. They're defending the decision not to issue an evacuation order earlier.
It's kind of difficult to send people away from danger when you don't know where the danger is. Number 2, to try to put forth some sort of evacuation in a couple of days was a little, the logistics would have been crazy.
Residents left grabbing whatever they can to wait out the flash flooding at temporary shelters.
A lot of people I've seen in the water, and they was having a rough time.
President Donald Trump has flown from Camp David back to the White House with plans to visit the devastated area tomorrow. The first natural disaster of his administration is likely to leave a multi-billion-dollar clean-up bill. But for now, the focus is still very much on saving lives as the catastrophic inundation persists. Helen Ispista, SBS World News.
An Indian court has sentenced a self-styled God man convicted of rape to 10 years jail. Indian media report Gurmeet Singh cried in court during tonight's hearing. His followers went on a rampage that killed at least 38 people and injured 200 more when he was convicted last week. In preparation for tonight's sentence, tens of thousands of police enforced a lockdown on parts of the country where he has a mass following. Police even having orders to shoot protesters on sight. The case dates back to 2002, when 2 women followers accused Singh of rape. The victims say they will appeal for the sentence to be changed to life imprisonment, while Singh's lawyer says his client will appeal the conviction in a higher court. A top Republican in the US Congress says President Donald Trump should not have pardoned a former Arizona sheriff who took a hard line on immigrants. Paul Ryan is one of a group of Republicans who've criticised Mr. Trump for his decision to pardon Joe Arpaio.
The drums beat against bigotry. In California, demonstrators are marching to say no to hatred. It's a message directed at white supremacists, like those who held a deadly rally in Charlottesville, Virginia earlier this month.
This is not a fascist America that we're going to tolerate, and we're not going to tolerate these white supremacists either.
But not everybody is united against hate. In Berkeley, it wasn't long before divisions became apparent.
Go home, Nazis, go!
The gathering punctuated by tear gas and violent skirmishes. At least 10 people were arrested. The US is still grappling with what happened in Charlottesville. Many have criticised the US president, arguing that he equated neo-Nazis with peaceful protesters. The US Secretary of State was diplomatic when asked about it.
I don't believe anyone doubts the American people's values or the commitment of the American government or the government's agencies to advancing those values and defending those values.
And the president's values?
And the president speaks for himself.
The president has spoken for himself in the case of Joe Arpaio, controversially pardoning the former Arizona sheriff.
Just about every modern president ends up with some controversial pardons.
Mr. Arpaio was convicted last month of criminal contempt and faced up to 6 months in prison. He'd defied a court order to stop traffic patrols that targeted people suspected of being illegal immigrants.
I'm very happy. I have to thank the President of the United States for his pardon.
Donald Trump and Joe Arpaio have been political buddies for years, partners in a crusade against illegal immigration.
Donald Trump will build the wall.
The US media is reporting that President Trump had asked Attorney General Jeff Sessions months ago about how the criminal case could be dropped. Some Republicans are arguing the pardon demonstrates Mr. Trump's contempt for the rule of law.
I actually have the power of pardoning in my state. We do clemencies over time, but we make sure that people did proper restitution. I wouldn't have done it this way.
Joe Arpaio, who's 85, says he may consider running for public office again. Lisa Upton, SBS World News.
And later in the program, music's message, a fiery point made at the MTV Awards.
Can you read at all?
Not a great deal. I don't want to show anybody that I've got a problem.
They called me dumb. What's your life been like? I turned to drugs and alcohol.
Then, the world's most determined petrol heads, Speed Sisters, Palestine's all-female racing team taking on tradition. And the everyday hazards of the West Bank. Insight followed by Dateline. Tomorrow from 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
We're told to live large, but with Princess Cruises, your most extraordinary moments happen when you feel small, when you're completely outnumbered, overshadowed, and outshined. So what if you dared to explore this great, big, beautiful pond? What if you dared to feel small? Explore Alaska 12 nights from $2,779. Call your travel agent or visit princess.com. Princess Cruises, come back new.
Australia, it's time to head into Coles for 100% Aussie strawberries. Sweet and juicy on their own, or even better in a dessert.
Aussie strawberries, 2 50-gram punnets, 3 punnets for just $4 or $1.50 each.
Right now at Coles.
The annual family holiday. Hang on. It's escape with Carnival time. What? 8 days from just $890. Visit your travel agent or carnival.com.au.
As pro wrestler Iron J, I owe my success to Mum, feeding me Iron J crispy battered fish. And of course, years of training. It's always been fish and training. Training and fish. Iron J helped me grow strong. And by giving you a $5 Rebel gift card with every specially marked pack, right now, Iron J are helping you grow even stronger.
From food critic to farmer to restaurateur.
Yeah, it's good. The madness.
Sort of fun.
Gourmet Farmer, Thursday 8 o'clock on SBS and on demand.
It's very easy to be labelled an angry black man. It's very easy to be labelled crazy.
No, that's it. No, that's it.
You do reach a point where you've had enough.
Fair Game, Sunday 9:45 on SBS and on demand.
Police are still trying to determine how a 3-year-old girl was shot dead in Western Sydney. The toddler was found in her home with a single gunshot wound to the neck. Her father has been charged with multiple firearm offences and for breaching an apprehended violence order.
In police custody and visible distress. Bail was refused for the 43-year-old, just 14 hours after the death of his daughter.
Extremely shocking. These scenes are not pleasant to attend.
Last night, paramedics were called to a home at Laylaw Park in Sydney's west to find a 3-year-old girl already dead.
The door was open and then the mother came out and she was like really angry and she was just screaming, and I seen another guy leave the house, blood all over his hands and that.
The toddler's mother had to be treated for shock. The father, who does not live at the property, is the subject of an AVO. He was seen sitting in a distressed state in the street outside before being arrested.
The male's been charged with 3 firearm offences, not keep firearms safe, possession of an unauthorised prohibited firearm and possession of an unregistered prohibited firearm.
Police are investigating whether the toddler accidentally shot herself. Her 3 brothers, aged between 3 and 8, were also inside at the time. They are currently being cared for by relatives. Forensic officers remain at the scene of the Laylaw Park property. Police say it will take some time to establish or determine what exactly happened in the lead up to this tragedy and how a 3-year-old girl was within arm's length of a loaded weapon.
It's very important that people keep firearms safe at all times and in accordance with the legislation.
Her father is expected to return to court on Friday. Omar Debaj, SBS World News.
The banking regulator says it'll conduct a wide-ranging investigation into the culture, governance and accountability of the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. Treasurer Scott Morrison says it's a welcome intervention and has again rejected Labor's calls for a banking royal commission.
In the spotlight again for all the wrong reasons. The Commonwealth Bank will now be investigated by the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority. APRA says a number of concerns have been raised in relation to the governance, culture and accountability within the CBA group, and that given its position in the Australian financial system, it is critical that community trust is strengthened. CBA has had a tumultuous month. First, AUSTRAC initiated proceedings in the federal court alleging over 53,000 contraventions of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing laws. That announcement saw CBA's shares fall by 5.4%. ASIC said it would investigate CBA's behaviour. Then Chief Executive Ian Narev announced he'll resign by July next year. Last week, Morris Blackburn lawyers said it was pursuing a potential class action for aggrieved investors. And now APRA will investigate the culture of Australia's largest bank.
When will the Turnbull government finally do what it knows needs to be done and what the Australian people want, which is to have a royal commission into our banks?
The Treasurer says any shortcomings will be adequately addressed by both ASIC and APRA.
The things that a Royal Commission could potentially recommend, we're already doing now. Increased powers and resources for ASIC. Tick, done, swoosh, just do it, the Nike approach.
Analysts say investigations into CBA shouldn't be politicised.
It's important for all stakeholders, so that's customers and staff and shareholders, that the inquiry is independent and is transparent.
In a statement, the CBA chairman, Catherine Livingstone, acknowledged the community's trust in the bank had been weakened. She welcomed the inquiry and said APRA's oversight will ensure transparency. A final report from APRA will be made public and is expected 6 months after the inquiry officially gets underway. Hannah Sinclair, SBS World News.
Thousands of Rohingya Muslim families have fled from Myanmar to Bangladesh as fighting intensifies between government forces and insurgents. The death toll from the worst fighting in the region in 5 years has climbed to more than 100. The President of the Philippines has told police they are free to kill idiots who resist arrest as part of his war on drugs. Rodrigo Duterte's comments come just 2 days after hundreds of people turned the funeral of a teenager killed by police into a protest against the deadly crackdown. He says if suspects resist arrest, then it's an officer's duty to overcome that resistance.
not only just shouting at him to surrender, because if he does not, and he resists, and it is a violent one, placing in jeopardy the lives of my policemen and, of course, the military, you are free to kill the idiots.
At least 2 people have been killed and dozens more are missing after a landslide in China's southwestern Guizhou province. Part of a mountain collapsed onto the remote Chongjiawan township. A rescue effort is underway. So far, 4 people have been saved. The much-vaunted Snowy Hydro 2.0 will take at least 6 years to build, with Malcolm Turnbull conceding it won't help energy affordability or reliability in the here and now. But the Prime Minister insists he's taking other action on skyrocketing power prices now, a red-hot subject with households and businesses alike.
From high in the sky...
I loved it. It's very exciting.
...to deep under the earth.
It is amazing.
Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull can't hide his enthusiasm for his pet project.
Snowy Hydro 2.0.
The doubling of the scheme with huge battery storage was announced in March.
Now, can you start up turbine number 7 for us?
Today was a chance to tour the drilling and feasibility work so far, with the project not to be finished for another 6 years.
It will contribute to more affordable and more reliable electricity in the future, but it's not going to contribute to it tomorrow.
Today we're greeted by images of Mr Turnbull flying around in circles over the Snowy, talking a big game, and the Snowy's a good idea. But Mr Turnbull, the energy prices crisis is here and now.
Mr Turnbull knows this, and on Wednesday will have his second meeting this month with the electricity retailers.
We believe there is at least 1 million households, probably a lot more, that are paying more for electricity than they need to because they're on the wrong plan. So we're taking action right now.
The electricity companies say they're working on that, but the huge bill hikes of up to 20% aren't just their fault.
We know the answer is a clean energy target and agreed policy certainty out of Canberra. It's been missing for 10 years and it's begun to cause serious problems in the market.
Clean energy target by itself is not going to be able by itself to ensure that we have the baseload power we need in the years ahead. So there's quite a lot of complexity in this.
Complexity is an understatement. The clean energy target remains the only one of the 50 Finkel Review recommendations stuck in the Coalition Party room. Once the Prime Minister steers the government through the same-sex marriage survey and the dual citizenship saga, this will be the next big battle. Daniela Retorto, SBS World News.
A new program to help the over-50s reskill or get back into the workforce will be trialled at 5 sites around the country. The Career Transitional Assistance Program is due to be rolled out nationally in 2020. Older migrants are among those facing challenges finding work.
Anna Demo was a teacher in South Sudan before civil war forced her to flee her country. She arrived in Australia with little English and can recall the daunting prospect of trying to find work.
The difficulty is when you don't know the language, you can't do anything because the language is the key.
As a pastoral care worker, Miss Demo now works with migrants of all backgrounds and ages. She stresses the importance of English language skills as she helps prepare them for the Australian workforce.
Adult is hard to learn English quicker, but the younger one, they are quick to learn, but for adult it's very difficult.
But it's not just migrants who find it hard to get work.
According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, this time last year, the median time it took a job seeker to find employment was 21 weeks. Compare that to the 55 to 64 age group, and that's 10 weeks longer.
I think it's hard as you get older to keep up to date with everything. People in their 50s are often raising children and caring for parents and families, so it's hard to keep in touch with everything.
The federal government has responded by rolling out 5 trial sites across the country for a new program to help older Australians find work.
But it's all about appropriately targeting policies, because one size fits all doesn't necessarily work. Mature age have very different needs, for example, to our youth. So this policy is very much focused on those above the age of 50 who need assistance to either remain in the labour market or alternatively, if you've been out of the labour labour market to get those skills you need to get back into the labour market.
Ballarat in Victoria, Somerset in Queensland, Central West New South Wales, Adelaide and Perth have been chosen because of their distinct labour markets. Laurie Lawira, SBS World News.
US broadcasting giant CBS is to buy Australia's troubled 10 network at a cost analysts estimate to be $400 million. The network was placed into administration in June. The Foreign Investment Review Board is yet to approve the deal, but 10's receivers, managers and voluntary administrators have confirmed that CBS has entered into a binding agreement to buy the broadcaster's business and its assets.
They've got content coming out of their ears, they've got money coming out of their ears, and they've also got a streaming service, CBS All Access Areas, which will come to Australia as well. Again, increasing media diversity.
Well, coming up next, the weather and tributes for former Ironman champion Dean Mercer.
The MI5 hacking scandal.
Tapping the royal family would be one of the most controversial decisions a Prime Minister could make.
Royals Week continues with Spying on the Royals, tomorrow 7:30 on SBS and on demand.
Hi, I'm Felix Staples. My heroes are Andrew Breitbart, Yitzhak Rabin, and Lil Kim.
We're being set up.
I will see you in court.
The Good Fight, Wednesday 9:30 on SBS and on demand.
Every week there's always something new to try at Woolworths.
Like Chobani Flip, creamy Greek yogurt with a side of crave-worthy crunch. And right now, they're just $1.50.
That's why I picked Woolies.
I know the way, let me take you there.
Booking a flight with Expedia, then adding a hotel or experience can save you money.
Let me take you there.
With the whole world in your hands, where will you go? Expedia.
Say hello to Kia Sportage GT line, packed with features like panoramic sunroof.
I don't like being big. I've never liked being big.
Obesity, decision or disease?
The view in our society that fat people choose to be fat.
In an Australian first, we go behind the scenes of a clinic with a new perspective.
Instead of rotting away in their beds and suffering.
He offers hope.
It's not your fault.
That's what I've been wanting to hear for so long.
The Obesity Myth starts next Monday, 7:30 on SBS and on demand.
Let's check the finance figures now. When the Australian share market closed lower today, the Commonwealth Bank was down on the news. It will face an inquiry by the Prudential Regulator into concerns about its governance, culture and accountability. Property giant Lendlease lifted its full-year profit to $758.6 million, driven by strong results in Australia's development and investment segments. Qantas shares have fallen on the back of an analyst downgrade after the airliner reshuffled senior executives in its international division and Jetstar. European stocks started the week firmly on the back foot, with every sector retreating following Friday's euro surge. The Australian dollar has ended the day at just under 80 US cents. Ironman champion Dean Mercer has died. The 47-year-old suffered a heart attack while driving his car on the Gold Coast this morning. The two-time Australian Ironman champion had a lengthy career in surf lifesaving. He was returning from his regular early morning training session when he died.
Champion bloke, great lifesaver, true champion in every sense of the word. A mate, a friend, taken too soon.
Dean Mercer is survived by his wife Reen and their 4 sons. China has put on an extravagant display for the opening ceremony of the 13th National Games. Athletes from across China paraded around Tianjin Olympic Stadium before a spectacular performance, mixing music, dance and fireworks. Chinese President Xi Jinping was among those who attended the event. Well, to the weather now. And in the major centres, sunny in Darwin, partly cloudy in Brisbane, Sydney and Canberra, and a few showers in Melbourne. Looking further afield, drizzle in Noumea, heavy rain in Tahiti and a partly cloudy day ahead for Wellington. In Southeast Asia, thunderstorms in Bangkok and Singapore, grey skies in Denpasar and showers in Port Moresby. Further north, cloudy in Beijing and Seoul, a rainy day in Shanghai and Hanoi and cloudy in Taipei. Heading west now, a fine day ahead for Beirut, partly cloudy in Dubai and Islamabad, drizzle in New Delhi. To Europe, cloudy in London, sunny in Paris and Budapest, a few showers in Madrid, a rainy day for Rome. In Africa, rain expected in Casablanca and Lagos, sunny in Cairo and Johannesburg. To South America, drizzle in Panama City, rainy in Caracas and La Paz, cloudy in Lima. And for North America, sunny in Vancouver, Denver and Los Angeles, showers in Chicago and also in Washington. This year's MTV Video Music Awards in Los Angeles won't just be remembered for the music, but also its political statements. The condemnation of white supremacy, just one issue to take centre stage in between performances.
It's the American awards show famous for its shock value, and the fiery opening number by California rapper Kendrick Lamar fit the bill. The message about police brutality.
Kendrick Lamar!
Lamar went on to be the night's biggest winner, with 6 statuettes, including Video of the Year. Britain's Ed Sheeran was voted Artist of the Year. And at the age of 37, Pink was given MTV's version of a Lifetime Achievement Award. The singer using the stage to teach her 6-year-old daughter about self-acceptance.
Do you see me changing the way I present myself to the world? No, Mama. Do you see me selling out arenas all over the world? Yes, Mama. Okay.
Also there with the message, the mother of Heather Heyer, killed during a protest against a far-right march in Charlottesville, Virginia 2 weeks ago.
I've been deeply moved to see people across the world, the whole world, find inspiration in her courage.
Introduced by a descendant of Robert E. Lee, the Civil War general whose statue was at the centre of the violence.
Today, I call on all of us with privilege and power to answer God's call to confront racism and white supremacy head on.
We must show these Nazi, white supremacist jerks.
The speeches and performances watched by a group of transgender military personnel. Their invitation, a protest against the president's recent ban, on a night when it was everything but the music stealing the show. Helen Ispista, SBS World News.
Well, that's the world this Monday. All tonight's stories are online. I'm Darren Mara. Good night.